So some of you saw the news piece on this community back in 2016. I remember when my wife said, I saved something on the DVR you need to see. And that was the first time I'd ever heard of Charles Hodges. And I watched the piece and I was blown away because it was just such an incredible vision. And it was talking about changing a field that very much needed to be changed. Charles has put so much heart and soul into this that words can't even begin to describe. And so I'm excited to be able to introduce Charles, to have him talk a little bit about his vision. Charles, come on up and introduce yourself.
Thank you. Wonderful turnout, wonderful weather, couldn't be better. We really appreciate everybody being here to help us celebrate this. It has. Somebody told me that it takes an elephant gestation period 3 years, and this one's been about double the elephant. So no one wanted it to open any quicker than we did, but it needed to be a research-based facility, and it needed to be one that really was based on fact, not perception. It was based on discovery, not based on the way they built facilities in 1969 and 1975 and 1985. It had to be something truly unique. We went through the dementia journey with my father, and quite frankly, we were in what was purported to be the finest facilities in Dallas. And quite frankly, they didn't have a clue on how to deal with dementia. And it had to be changed. So it just seemed like it was time to change the entire game. It was time to study based on research and not based on anything else. So I began the journey of 4 years of research, and research is really critical in our business because in architecture, if you don't do your research, you don't know what you're designing for. You need a roadmap. So I began to seek out all the information from around the world that was available to me, and it was very important. Thank you, Susan. It was very important to garner the studies from all over. I found a study in Finland that I found very interesting. It was about interventional therapy for dementia to slow the progression. I have a very short patient span, and slowing progression was not what I wanted to do. Slamming on the brakes was what I wanted to do. And I began to choose the partners, and I was blessed to travel all over and look at a lot of facilities and select partners that were ones that I felt like were worthy of being part of Tribute. Tribute is really based on trying to intervene in the progression of aging. And I'm 67, and I think that we are currently faced with a situation where it is really based on the slowing down 60s and the sedentary 70s and really kind of expended energy 80s. We can change that. In 2001, my father contracted Alzheimer's, and at the time his blood pressure was perfect. His cholesterol was 136. He was 86 years old. And he'd go out in August and mow in 108-degree weather. And he'd come in and drink a cup of coffee. He drank 20 cups of coffee a day. But he would do it whether it was December or whether it was August. And that was just his lifestyle. So he stayed very active. Unfortunately, it was about a 2-year journey. As we began to choose our research partners, we looked all over Texas, all over the United States, and quite frankly, all over the world to choose our partners. And you're going to hear from that partner that we chose a little later in the program. Each caregiver needs and is owed the training that hasn't been available. Each resident deserves the best level of care that is available on the face of the earth. There's no excuse for us not being able to provide that in today's world. So I think that as we embark upon this journey, Tribute will never be finished. I've been saying that a lot lately, but it will never be finished, because if you are a research-based facility, and you are one that will constantly change and constantly evolve. And I think that's what's most important. People who build one prototype and then want to go rubber stamp that all over the country, that's wrong. That's a disservice to our population and those that deserve a better level of care. We chose Prosper because we felt like it was a playing field that we could come up here and really be left alone by all the other people in Dallas and the Metroplex, and we could come develop a program that really embraced the community, and we had an opportunity, we felt, to have a community that would embrace us. We've had a tremendous volunteer offering up here. It's just, we're going to have a full-time volunteer manager and coordinator, I believe. And we're grateful for that. And we're grateful for all the offerings of help and assistance from the community itself. To me, one of my mentors always said, you have to choose your gladiator and then you have to let that gladiator fight. And so our research team and the team at the University of Rhode Island and the Ryan Institute of Neuroscience is our gladiator team. If you don't know Tom Ryan was chairman of CBS Drug. Tom retired or sold out or whatever. Both his parents passed from the effects of Alzheimer's and dementia. So he formed the George and Ann Ryan Institute of Neuroscience. And when Tom did that, he basically had an open protocol. I hate to use the term blank check, but he wanted to build the finest neuroscience team in the United States and in the world. And I think he's a long way down towards creating that team. I think that, quite frankly, that was a big part of the study that went into creating Tribute. And Tribute is an event every day that's different. I hope that we do something different every day. We want people to be energized to get up and to get out of their rooms. We really don't want people in their rooms after it's time to get up and go. We want them to be engaged and we want them to be stimulated. Every wall in this facility is an opportunity for stimulation. Some are art students, some are music patrons, and there should be an opportunity in every corner of this campus to stimulate those with what they love the most. We're blessed with a tremendous collection through our partners at Southwest Art Gallery. We have a permanent collection that is hanging on the walls in here, and the easels are populated by some of the greatest art available. And Southwest Art felt like that was so important, and so they contributed their time and their energy and their expertise in helping us make art a big part of the architecture here at Tribute. Our exterior areas are such that we broke some ground that, quite frankly, the state had never seen and didn't really know how to deal with. As you tour this evening, pay strict attention to the fact that those atriums in the center of each of our pods are covered. They had never seen anybody cover the outside courtyards. They didn't understand why. Well, if you sit out in one of these in August when it's 105, you would understand why. We wanted people outside. We wanted them engaged outside. We didn't choose a Home Depot greenhouse. We went to a commercial greenhouse. We put in our putting green because you can't tell me that someone who has played golf their whole life can't still putt. Can't tell me that. So, in moving through the development of Tribute, each corner of each room, of each area, of each pod is based on research. One of the greatest gifts that was ever given, Temple Grandin is somebody that I came to know. If you know who Temple is, I believe her parents were told when she was 8 that she should be institutionalized, that she would never speak or be able to be a part of community. Temple's a PhD at Colorado State. She was named by Time magazine as one of the 100 most influential people in the world. She said, embrace wandering. And I said, well, tell me from your perspective. She said, well, she is actually Asperger's and autistic diagnosis. But Temple's the highest functioning autistic person I've ever seen. And she said, embrace wandering. She said, wandering to an Alzheimer's patient is like Spinning in a swing, if you ever saw the movie, those of you that have seen the movie of her life, spinning in the swing is soothing. And to be able to embrace wandering is very important. You'll see tremendous numbers of facilities that are designed with dead-end corridors. Tribute has no dead-end corridor. It's all an oval in each pod, and we embrace wandering. It's still frustrating to me, the level of research in some parts of the globe, because I saw a study 2 years ago from Oxford who said, well, we were really disappointed that we weren't able to stop wandering in the new research facility. And I thought, boy, it's always a struggle. They really don't get it. They need to live it, and then they could get it. So I want to welcome everyone here. I want you to know that this is a part of your community. I want you to know that we're here to serve you, and we're here to enjoy our citizenship of Prosper. I'll be back in a minute to introduce our keynote speaker, but I'm going to turn it back over to Godwin. Thank you.
Well, I think you can see why we were all inspired to join this team. This is something that when you have people that develop senior care centers, many just say, wow, there's a lot of seniors. I could make money. Let's build something, and oh yeah, we'll take good care. That wasn't Charles. Charles, very much from the heart, wanted this as a passion project for him. He wants something that really improves quality of life. And he chose Prosper very intentionally. Now, many of you have been a part of Prosper community for many years. I will tell you that I first discovered Prosper in the 90s when my mother was the pastor out here. And when I got back involved, I was like, wow, it's grown just a little bit since then. And so we've invited Mayor Ray Smith to come up. And Ray, we are so honored to be a part of your community here. This is, we're excited to be a partner, and turn it over.
Thank you. I saw a few people I want to introduce. Is Councilman Mike Corbett still here? Did he leave? I was going to get him all these votes, and he walked out. Oh, can you hear me? Yes. All right. And then Chuck Springer, did Chuck still? No? They all left. They're afraid I was going to tell Charles to talk to him about some of the building codes or something. When I first sat down with Charles years ago in his retail development, and he does quality stuff. This is the kind of guy we like in Prosper. And he had this vision for this facility. And he walked through it, and he was very passionate. And Charles, you hit it out of the park. This is awesome. It really looks nice. And we appreciate it, you being here and providing this. You know, it's one of those things, you get caught up in infrastructure, and we got people that want more roads and parks and stuff. But this is all part of a community's infrastructure. And we're just glad that you chose Prosper and that you are here. And you can call Mike Corbett if you have any more issues since he left us. Also, our firefighters, I see a couple of them here. Did everybody leave or are they out? All right. These guys are top notch. We're voted every year in the state as one of the safest communities. And because of these firefighters and our police officers, I didn't see any, but next time you see them, tell them thank you, because one of our core values is safety. And it's because of these guys that we have a real safe community up here. Let's see. Said that. Oh, can you tell I asked Charles to save me, I got one more term to serve. I asked him to save me a room, put my name on it, because serving as mayor this many years, I think I'll be ready to figure out who I am again. And I miss Leslie Scott. She's our librarian. Wave at everybody, Leslie. You're a big part of it. And I I just want to, again, thank Charles for sticking in there. The council, you know, after a bunch of pushing and pulling, that's typically you come up with a good deal. We did offer an incentive, and I think we matched what he was asking for. So we believed in him, and we believed in his quality, and he's delivered. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor Smith. We appreciate you being here, and we appreciate all the representatives that are here today. You know, a beautiful building is absolutely critical. A well-designed building is absolutely critical. And you're in for a treat when you have a chance to take the tour, because every ounce, every inch of this place has been thought through with painstaking detail, and you're going to be very impressed. But you have to have a combination of a vision, you have to have the combination of backing, you have to have the right facilities, and then you have to have the right team. And Charles said to Teresa and I, he said, I want you to put together a team that can actually make this research come to life, that will have exceptional, outstanding care, and have fun. And that's a key element. And so we put together a team that is the best of the best, that is not only very good at what they do, but they're also just good people and they know how to have fun. So I'm going to start, first off, I'm Godwin Dixon. I'm the managing partner, and Teresa Whittington, wave Teresa there in the back. Teresa will be our executive director. Teresa and I have worked together for about 20 years, and we're exact opposites, so we spent the first couple of years trying to kill each other, and then we learned to balance each other really well, so she lets me do all the speaking. Next to her is Darla. Darla is going to be our person out in the community. So if you have a group that would be up for having Darla come talk and present, she'd love to. She has a lot of presentations she can talk about. You have a subject you need covered, she can do it. An incredible person. Where's Renee at? Renee is over here. Renee is our person that when you send your folks to come tour the center, she takes care of them. And she'll show them around, she'll find out if we're the right place for them, and if so, where the place is, and she'll do a great job. Behind her is Dennis. Dennis is probably the most important person, because you're going to get to eat really, really well because of Dennis. And quite frankly, when all else is said and done, if we don't have really good food, not much else matters. And so Dennis has been taking good care of us for years. Dennis and I have worked together for a long, long time, and he was down leading a community in Oak Cliff, but he lived in Frisco, and I said, I've got a lot shorter drive, and you can do your magic up here. We have Lily up here. Lily is going to be doing life enrichment. Lily is somebody that I'd worked with for a number of years as well, had done an outstanding job for us. She was helping lead a community down in Dallas, and doing a great job down there, and we talked her into driving way up here. Now, I do have to say, we stole Renee from Flower Mound, and she turned around and swiped Darla for us, so it's all an incestuous group here. We then have Robin. Where's Robin at? Robin's over here. Robin's going to be our director of nursing. She's going to be overseeing the staff, the care and the clinical staff. Robin is an incredible person with a incredible background that's going to really allow us to take our training and our programs to a next level, much higher caliber than what you normally see in these, and we're very, very pleased to have her. There will be a lot more team members coming in over the time, but their job is to bring Charles's vision to life and to be a partner with Dr. Grammas. And I can't even begin to do honor to the incredible Dr. Grammas, so I'm going to ask Charles to come back up and make our introduction to our keynote today.
Thanks, Calvin. As I said, I was scouring the earth to find what I thought was the best researcher out there, and I read about Paula's work, and you know, so many people are chasing amyloid beta and tau tangles, and they haven't made any progress in the last decade or 2 decades. And I noticed that Paula was really researching vascular dementia. She was researching the effects of sedentary lifestyle, and she was researching the fact that the vascular system is key to delivering rich fuel to our brains. And I felt like that was looking where everybody else wasn't, and I felt like that was so important. So when I said choose your gladiator, I chose Paula. Paula is Tribute's Chief Research Officer. Her work on inflammation and vascular compromise was looking where the light wasn't good, was looking where everybody else wasn't, but I felt like it was looking in the right direction. It's hard out there in academia and collegiate research to get the recognition that each one deserves. And quite frankly, Paula's an overnight success after telling them this for 20 years. The entire market and the entire research movement has turned now their eyes on Paula's research, and I'll let her begin to tell you what she's been working on. She comes to us as our Chief Research Officer. She comes after stints as the Executive Director of the Garrison Institute of Aging out at Texas Tech. From there, she was the Executive Director of the Texas Alzheimer's Research Consortium. She was trying to get all the universities to work together in one research effort. That's like herding cats, an almost impossible task. And she's now the Executive Director of the George and Ann Ryan Institute for Neuroscience at the University of Rhode Island. She's our gladiator, Paula Grammas.
Great. Thank you, Charles. How are we doing?
We're about to see if we
Okay.
can get you going here. We had some.
I don't know about the gladiator part, but I am Greek. And my father was from Sparta. So if you've seen the movie 300, you know, we're a warrior people. So I also have to apologize a little bit for my voice. I've been sick for a couple of weeks, but I'm on the mend, so hopefully it will last while I'm speaking. And normally Charles knows that I like to go, an hour, 2 hours, you know, I like to have a lot of time. But he's told me that I have 20 minutes, so I'm going to try and shorten it up a little bit. First, I'd like to say that being involved with Charles and Mark and Rex has been one of the pleasures and privileges of my life. And to be here today for the opening of this facility after 7 years, or how many years we've been talking about it, is really just is a thrill. So I'm excited to share this day with all of you. So what I wanted to do today, I guess I'm fighting a little bit here. Maybe Mike could turn me down a little bit. What I wanted to do today is to talk a little bit about fighting Alzheimer's. As I mentioned, the tribute team, again, Charles, Mark, Rex, all my good friends and partners in this endeavor. We've talked a lot about what we want to do differently today. Alzheimer's disease, I'm sure I don't have to tell people in this room, has probably touched so many people's lives. It's a terrible disease for the people that have it, for their families. And I just want to make a few general comments so that we're all sort of on the same page. First of all, Alzheimer's disease is a disease. It is not a function of normal aging. People for many years used to say, well, you know, you're just getting old and that's just the way it is. Okay, well, that's just not the way it is. It's a disease, it has causes, and ultimately we hope to have treatments and preventative strategies. So that's the perspective from which we come to it. Dementia is not the same as Alzheimer's disease. Dementia means that you've lost some mental capacity that you used to have. But there are several different causes of dementia. Alzheimer's is the most common cause, but it's not the same and they're not synonymous. So I want to make sure we're all sort of on the same page. The statistics, very scary. For those of us baby boomers, as Charles told you his age, so I guess I have to tell you my age too. Okay, I'm 64. Although I won't tell you how much I weigh because then I have to kill you. So, but as we baby boomers hit the peak age for Alzheimer's, which is over 65, it's very frightening. Again, 6 million patients today, $280 billion cost for the US. The possibilities of bankrupting the healthcare system in the next decade or two, if we don't do something different than what we're doing now, I think is very realistic and very frightening. And those of us in the medical community, I think, have to answer to the fact that we've done such a good job on so many of these other diseases in changes in death rates from HIV, stroke, heart disease, so much progress. Alzheimer's disease, not so much. We really haven't been able to impact this terrible disease. And why is that? Well, in part, it's very complicated. It's a very tough disease to get your mind as a scientist and an investigator around, a disease that takes decades to manifest, very difficult scientifically. But I would also say in part, what I'm showing on the slide is our failure rate for developing drugs for Alzheimer's disease. And I think in part that reflects not only the complexity of the disease, but as Charles alluded to earlier, the narrow focus that the medical community has placed on research in Alzheimer's disease. Since my slide shows you from 2002 to 2012, the failure rate for developing drugs for Alzheimer's is, almost 100%. And as of today, 2019, we still have no disease-modifying drugs. The drugs that are currently used for Alzheimer's patients are what we call symptom-modifying drugs. They improve quality of life, and they're useful and beneficial for a period of time, but ultimately they don't get at what is the central problem in Alzheimer's disease, and they don't stop the progression of what's going on in the Alzheimer brain. And really what's going on in the Alzheimer brain is the loss of nerve cells. Neurons in the brain die. And we have known this for 30, 40 years. So the $64,000 question is why that happens, and what can we do about it? This shows it another sort of graphically, but this idea that people that have Alzheimer's disease have a very precipitous and pronounced decline in the amount of nerve cells in their brain. And the medical community has gone about understanding Alzheimer's disease by saying, okay, yes, nerve cells die. We know that's the reason why people get dementia, why people get this terrible disease. But when we look at the brains of people that have passed from Alzheimer's disease in autopsy and we study them, what do we see? Well, we see these things called plaques and tangles. And Alzheimer's disease over the years people have really focused on these plaques and tangles. And here's a slide to just show you this amyloid protein that Charles mentioned before. So the philosophy has been, if we look at the brain at the end and we see all these tangles, plaques, amyloid, if we understood how that came to be, it would tell us something about the disease. But my argument with that is, and I'm glad we have the firefighters here, because my argument is, if space aliens came down to Earth and they went to a fire, they would see firemen, and they would conclude that firemen start fires. So this is a little bit, I think, the backwards logic that has really overtaken the medical community. Looking at the end and trying to figure out how we got there really hasn't been successful. And ultimately, again, what is the central issue in Alzheimer's disease? Nerve cells in the brain die. So what do we know about the brain that might give us a clue as to how that comes about? Well, the brain, I love this slide. This is a cast of blood vessels in your brain. The brain is only 2% of your body weight, but it gets over 20% of your cardiac output. There are over 400 miles of blood vessels in your brain. So to us, that said, let's think about the fact that, okay, nerve cells die. Maybe they die for lots of different reasons, but one of those reasons may be because the blood vessels, which fill the brain and really create the environment in which the nerve cells sit, are no longer behaving as they should. And again, to simplify, this is kind of a humbling event, to simplify 30 plus years of work into one slide, we basically came up with this idea that if we look at the blood vessels, we developed a technique many years ago for isolating blood vessels from the brains of people that have passed on from Alzheimer's. And we were able to show that there are a lot of biochemical changes that occur in those blood vessels. And the idea being that things like, which we'll talk about in a moment, cardiovascular risk factors, hypertension, cholesterol, things that injure blood vessels, we think cause a change in how vessels behave. And because of that, vessels release a lot of noxious molecules, proteins, things that kill nerve cells. And ultimately, that's what we're trying to figure out. What's killing nerve cells? And if we could figure that out, and we could stop that, then we would actually be looking at a disease-modifying drug. So one of the things we've said is a lot of different things are going on, but one of the main drivers of this, what we call vascular activation, this aberrant behavior of blood vessels, is a particular protein called thrombin. And the thrombin does a lot of different things. And again, normally I would have 2 or 3 hours to go into my thrombin story. But basically, thrombin is involved in blood coagulation, lots of different things. But also, we think in this process in the brain of turning on the blood vessels in this negative way. There's a drug, dabigatran, that's currently in use for atrial fibrillation and a couple of other indications. And we have some data using experimental animals that suggests that this drug might be useful in Alzheimer's disease. We have data in animal models. Many of you might not be familiar with the idea that we actually have some animal models that replicate some parts of the disease. They're not perfect because mice aren't people, and mice only live to be 2, and people live obviously a lot longer. But having said that, there are things that we can model in these animals that are useful to us. And one of the things we've been able to look at is the effect of this drug in those animal models, and have shown that things like what we call reactive oxygen species, things that are noxious molecules in the brain, are all diminished by this drug. So based on our theory of the idea that blood vessels are abnormal in Alzheimer's disease, they make this protein that revs up all these toxic events. We've been able to secure funding, finally, after 30 years of talking about it, and we're starting a clinical trial in April at the University of Rhode Island. And the trial will focus on this idea that we're going to look at patients that have mild cognitive impairment or early development of Alzheimer's and treat them with this drug to see whether or not, after a period, if we follow them over the 1 to 3 years of the study, we can show changes in some of the blood markers that we think are relevant, and importantly, in cognitive function. So we're excited because this targeting these blood vessels has never been done before, and to us it just seems so logical. Clearly, there is so much data to suggest, as Charles was saying, I think until recently people really never thought about the idea of cardiovascular risk factors, but now we know, and have known for about 10 years now, that if you have high blood pressure in midlife, you have a higher incidence of developing Alzheimer's in late life. If you have hypertension, high blood pressure in midlife, you have a higher risk for developing Alzheimer's. So what does that say? That says that those things, hypercholesterol, hypertension, we know that those injure blood vessels. So our philosophy is that injury, if we can begin to understand, again, how those injurious things happen, we think this blocking this one protein will be of some use. I think I'm going to skip that. So when we talk about prevention, management, treatment options, as I said, we're excited about this trial because it's a new target. No other, really, there are several other studies around the country now that are beginning to look at new targets, something beyond amyloid. And, you know, hopefully there was another trial today that was just pulled, the Biogen's trial, which is an amyloid-based trial. We're all working very hard on the treatment aspect. But I think we need to start thinking about more broadly, and this is the exciting part that we're doing here at Tribute, to think about preventative strategies. How do we manage people that begin to have some cognitive issues? Are there things we can do? Well, again, what are the risk factors for developing all these terrible things? Age, well, okay, none of us are doing anything about that. But all the risk factors that we can modify, the things that we think about, your cardiovascular health, all these other kinds of things, the heart health that we're going to talk about in a moment, these are the kinds of things that we really need to begin to explore in greater depth. And as Charles was saying, those are the kinds of things that we're going to be doing here. This study in Lancet was released in 2017, and it said that 35% of dementias could likely have been prevented by behavior modifications in lifestyle. Again, risk factors, lowering blood pressure, obesity, smoking, diabetes. And again, I want to also just say that even if you do all those things, there is still the black box that we still don't know. I mean, even if you do all the good things, you still might get Alzheimer's, but if you do all the good things, you can cut your risk. And the fact that you can cut your risk, I mean, we never used to be able to say that. So that's really very powerful, I think, if you think about the things that we can do. We can't control our family history, we can't control our age, but we can control our lifestyle. So these are all things that we need to think about. Lifestyle matters. The whole idea of diet, nutrition, the connection between your diet, your gut, and your brain, that's a huge area now in neuroscience, that what we consider the gut-brain connection. Lots of research, really exciting work here. Dennis is going to be giving us some good Mediterranean diet tonight. So I think, again, thinking about trying to understand how these things would be important for prevention, I think is really important, and will be the kind of things we're doing here. Exercise, lots of good data in both patients and humans and in animals, that midlife fitness is really important, and even late life fitness. I went to an international conference about 2 years ago and saw a study presented on the effect of exercise on cognitive function. And someone turned to me and said, if this was a drug, it would have been on the front page of the New York Times. But because it was an exercise study, somehow people have the perception that that's a soft science. The data for exercise is very powerful. Exercise does so many things. We think many of those are mediated likely through blood vessels, but also through lots of other pathways. So again, I think the take home is if it's good for your heart, it's good for your brain. And that's really what we want to work towards in our research, what we want to work towards here at Tribute. And again, what you can do today to think about your own health, heart health, eat the good diet, engage in the world. I mean, that's another thing that we're going to be doing here at Tribute, the importance of physical activity, but the also importance of mental activity, mental stimulation, brain games, sleep, another big area, lots of research right now about the importance of getting good sleep. Manage stress, oh, I have to quit my job for that. Okay, so I'm not so good on the manage stress part, but I'm working on that. Move more, sit less, and just be engaged in the world around you. So I think, you know, we have nothing today, but I think we're on the cusp of a lot of exciting things, and I'm optimistic about the future. So thank you all for coming out this evening.
You want to use this one, Godwin, or you can hold it or flip it? Just don't drop that.
Well, I think you can see another reason why we were really excited to be a part of this. So, Paula, thank you. Dr. Grammas, that was incredible. We're going to get a lot more of Dr. Grammas over time, and we're going to have regular presentations on the latest. And what you've learned is just a smidge of what's coming ahead. So, yet another key element, but now I'm going to ask Lily to come on up and talk a little bit about the volunteers and some of the programs, because as you heard, exercise is key, but also mental stimulation. So, Lily, I'll hold that one for you. I'll be your mic stand.
Okay, great. Dr. Grammas, wow, that's all I can say. I want the 3-hour segment though. So Charles, work on that for us. All right. We have a very important group of folks that are here with us tonight, and they are called our Circle of Friends, and that's our volunteer team. Our doors are not quite open yet, and we have 60 volunteers at least. And I'm so excited about that. I want to recognize a few of them tonight. Is Pastor John around here somewhere? Okay, Pastor John Fowler from First Presbyterian Church is going to be doing our art classes for us, and also is going to be doing worship for us on Sundays. And then we've got also Glenn Gabbert. Glenn, where are you? Right there, okay. And so we're excited about, he's going to be coming and doing worship for us on 2 Sundays a month. And of course, thrilled to death that these men are willing to give their time for us. And then we also, Brother Bill, thank you so much for praying tonight. Thank you for only praying for 1 minute, so I get one of your minutes, okay? Because they only gave me one. But Brother Bill already has a couple from his church, Craig and Suzanne Hanson. We're thrilled to have them. They're going to be doing a Wednesday afternoon Bible study for our folks. And then Steve Lacey, who is also a pastor. I don't know if Steve's here, but he's also going to be doing that. And then we have Natalie and Ruby. Can Natalie wave her hand? Ruby is sitting at her feet, and that's her service dog. And Ruby's going to be visiting with us on a regular basis also. And then, of course, I just got to visit this past week with Leslie from the library, and she and I are meeting next week to start working on some programs on book reviews and opportunities for us to go to the library and the library to come to us. And so we're excited about that, because that's very much a part of our programming that we're going to be doing. And then a young lady walked in one day named Amy Davis. Is Amy here? She had a child who got her tonsils out this morning, so she wasn't sure she could be here. But Amy walked in one day and said, I want to be a part of what I've been watching. And I said, well, I want you to be a part of that. And from that first conversation to now, she has enlisted about 40 plus moms and dads and children that will be coming into our building and doing intergenerational programs, all kinds of music programs, rich music programs, harpists, violinists, harmonicas, lots and lots of music, because music is so important. It's one of those things that's heart memory. And so we don't ever want to let go of that. Music will be very much a part of everything that we're doing here at Tribute Senior Living. So let's give a hand to our circle of friends.
So again, a lot of neat things going on here. This is going to be a fun place to live. This is going to be a healthy place to live. This is going to be an exciting place to live. But one of the things that you heard Dr. Grammas talk about was the importance of food. Now, we all know we should eat healthy. So why don't we? Because sometimes the good tasting stuff isn't really healthy. So we said, Dennis, you got to make good stuff that tastes good but is also healthy. And I've never had a head of culinary that was better at that. So Dennis, come on up and talk to us about how you're going to make stuff that we enjoy and deserve.
Thank you. I am very honored to serve as culinary director here at Tribute Senior Living. And I welcome you. And we know how important food is to our daily life, and certainly the benefit of healthy food. So we hope that you have enjoyed your meal already. Have you? No. There's more. There's more to come. There's more to come. There's absolutely more to come. But I would be remiss if I didn't say thank you to our dining services staff, near or far. They probably can't hear us, they're busy, but we'll give them a thank you round of applause right now, so thank you. Well, as Dr. Grammas indicated, it is so important to us that we have a dining program that makes Tribute proud and makes our residents well. And with that, we are putting on a sample of what our residents will be dining, what they will be enjoying when they dine with us here at Tribute. And we have 3 neighborhoods. And tonight, at each neighborhood, you're going to have 2 points of service for many delicious things. So we hope you are hungry. Over in this corner, we have our assisted living dining room called the Prairie Dining Room, with 2 points of service. We have a buffet set up, and in the main dining room we have a carved item with some wonderful healthy accompaniments to go with those carved items. Memory Care 1, when you walk into Memory Care 1, which is our river neighborhood, you will see also a buffet table set up that's in keeping with what our Mark 5 dining program is, which stands for Mediterranean, Artisan, Regional, Ketogenic, and Vegetarian. So you'll have a wonderful sampling of items in our River Memory Care dining room. So what meal is complete without dessert? So obviously in Memory Care 2, we have a wonderful array of wonderful fresh fruits and nuts, and even some cake and keto-friendly desserts as well. So we hope that you enjoy that too. So when this is over, please don't run that way. Run this way, run that way, and run that way, and sample some of the good, delicious things that our residents are going to enjoy. But before we do that, if you haven't already, we'd like to give away a prize. So we're going to get those blue raffle tickets right, and there is one lucky winner out there that's going to enjoy. We got a few more tickets out here that we would like to put in the bowl. So, Goblin, right there.
And someone dropped their ticket.
That probably will be the winning one. All right. So get them out, and everybody's going to feel like. What?
Need to be present to win.
Yeah. All right. So let's see.
So they have to be present to win. So if they've left, then it's get to pick again.
All right. So if you don't want this gift, I'll take it off your hands. So we will start with 422. If you have 422, raise your hand. You didn't win. Okay. The last number, last three numbers, 1, 2, 7. Nobody's screaming. 422 127. Come on out. Come